Hello, and welcome to the So You Want to Be a NACAC board member. This is the first of 3 sessions that are designed for individuals who are interested in serving on the NACAC board. This specific session is designed to give you the ins and outs of what's needed in the application, what the nominating committee is looking for, and really what are some tips that we can share to help make everybody a successful candidate. I am joined today by 3 amazing colleagues. Let me start by introducing myself. I am Ffiona Rees. My paying day job is at UCLA. I am the chair of the nominating committee for this year, and this is my second year on the board.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carolyn Blair, and I work for the School District of Clayton. I am the Director of Counseling Services, and this is my 3rd year on the nominating committee.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristin Dreazen. I am an independent educational consultant based in London in the UK, and this is also my 3rd year on the nominating committee.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joseph Montgomery, Associate Vice Provost for Enrollment Management at North Carolina A&T State University. I am in my 2nd year serving as a Board of Directors member, and then I'm also in the 1st year of the nominating committee.
Well, thank you all for joining me, and hopefully everyone finds this quite useful. So let's start with the very basic question of what positions do we have available for this particular cycle?
So this year we have 3 positions open for 2024. As every year, we have a chair-elect position open and 2 board of director members. The chair-elect serves a 3-year term, chair-elect, chair, and past chair, with a 4th year where they are, as Ffiona is this year, serving as the chair of the nominating committee. And the director terms are 3 years.
So then, what are the key characteristics that the committee is generally looking for when we're selecting from all of the applicants that we have for each position? And are there particular requirements that we're looking for board of director versus board chair?
Generally, we're looking for all, board members and certainly the chair-elect to, first of all, demonstrate, commitment to the mission of NACAC, particularly, diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and belonging. So candidates should, recognize also that being a part of the board and certainly being the chair is not a political position. It's certainly apolitical, and we would hope that any person serving in one of those positions would be able to speak to all members and make sure that all perspectives are considered and taken into consideration. And then obviously there's some very specific, sort of qualifications and trajectory that we would want every single person to have.
And I often hear individuals say, oh, I'm not going to be qualified. I haven't served already for NACAC. I haven't been an affiliate leader. I haven't been a special interest group or SIG leader, or I haven't been on one of the committees. And I know that you have to be in order to be selected. Is that true?
I think that as long as, people have had service in leadership positions in some capacity, it doesn't necessarily have to be at NACAC. Certainly that's helpful. We want to know that people have a commitment to NACAC and understand the mission and what we're there for. But there's plenty of opportunities to show leadership in different organizations like ACRA or ASCA, the College Board, and any kind of leadership positions on committees or, but certainly leading things like your ACAC in your home state, et cetera, are very helpful, but it's not disqualifying if you haven't done those specific things.
And I think we've seen plenty of cases where individuals have come onto the board not having served in one of those roles because they've been able to highlight. And so, Joe, actually, can you share a little bit about some of your sort of professional experiences and how that's helped you on the board?
Sure, that's a good question, Fiona. My experiences, they are there's a wide range. I was in higher ed and then left higher ed and worked for the College Board. Before going to the College Board, I spent a lot of time working in my affiliate, doing a lot of work reaching out to students through the Camp College experience, doing driving workshops, whether that was government relations, and ultimately serving on the board of directors for SACAC. And then I had a period of time where I was at the College Board for 6 years. And so giving back to the community of students trying to get to college and college advising work, it required me to do things in my community and do some civic engagement with church um, organizations and other volunteer services where I continue to work with students, helping them off to college. And then I rejoined the higher ed community. And upon rejoining the higher ed community, I got involved immediately, back with all of the affiliates from ACROS to, um, you know, other ACAC throughout the region. And so I now have the opportunity to serve on the board. So I've had this kind of twisting and winding avenue, and Carolyn, she said it best. What she said was, you can continue to demonstrate your ability to serve in different capacities.
So then to sort of build on from that, how might the qualifications for the chair-elect and the chair position perhaps be a little bit different than the board director?
Well, the chair-elect should have some steep experiences with leading in strategic planning and strategic thought about not only where we've been as an organization, but really should concentrate on where we are and where we're going. And so being able to think about best positioning and then thinking about how to continue to deliver on the key elements up for the organization, making certain that we remain goal oriented and making certain that we stay in alignment with the leadership of NACAC.
And I would
Okay.
add to that just
Yeah.
quickly, just
No,
that
please.
making sure in terms of the difference between the chair-elect and a board member is that we would be looking at, some significant progress in leadership and things that, so examples would be, a former actual board member if you were going to move into the chair-elect position, chair of a NACAC ad hoc committee. Just the things that you see listed on the screen there are really important for the chair-elect to show there's a lot of leadership, a lot of communication, possibly even, national communication with different organizations, et cetera. And we want to make sure that someone has had the opportunity to have some type of experiences that would display capacity to kind of step into that very, very large leadership role.
Okay. Thank you. So are there any other expectations for all candidates that we should be thinking about? Or I feel like we've actually covered many of them, but Joe, is somebody who's on the board, anything else you would want to highlight?
I think it's Fiona. I think it's really important for anyone considering board service to really think differently about what it means to be a board member. When I worked in my affiliate, it was really we were planning and doing all of the work. And the very difference in the board service is that we help to guide NACAC professional staff. And so it's really having that strategic thought practice in place so that you can add as much value as you can to the board, having that type of practice.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about what might make a good candidate for the board, now that we sort of set the expectation of this is generally what you're doing. So what are some of the skill sets that we think generally would make a good candidate?
So, Fiona, we've spent a lot of time talking about this amongst the members of the committee over the last several months. And rather than reading the slide to everyone, I'm going to let everybody take a look. But I think it's important for people who are considering putting themselves forward for the board that we don't expect every candidate to have all of these qualities or all of these experiences, but rather these are qualities and experiences that we would like to have amongst the folks who are joining the board this year. These are things that are either representative of board members who are rolling off or places that we feel that we have opportunity for growth as an organization. And so these are the skills and experiences that are going to help us as we get into the part of this process when we're reading and considering candidates for the next phase.
So just like we tell our students in the application process, this is not a time to be humble. Share what your own experiences are and share ways that you will be contributing to the board if you decide to apply. Now, another question I often hear from people is, yeah, I've been involved, but I don't know the right people. I think I need to know somebody who's on the nominating committee who can advocate for me, or somebody on the board, or somebody else who's been in the leadership position. I'm true or false?
Absolutely false. As we say in our meetings, you don't have to be NACAC famous in order to be a really viable candidate in this process. What really makes candidates successful is putting forward their skills, their experiences, their strengths, and letting that do the work for them instead of having thinking that they need to have an advocate in their corner who's going to do that for them. You can very much advocate for yourself through your application process.
And we very much look for that in the review process. So now let's talk about what is actually needed. So what documents are needed and when do we need them by?
So we'll start with an application. So hopefully everyone knows that the applications are open, but that application in a bio form, including a resume, it also does include a headshot. Those references and everything that's part of that application are due on February the 28th. And basically what candidates should think about is, we're working in college admissions. And so the board is kind of doing the same thing. They're trying to build a board that's well representative of all the membership. There's a lot of members in NACAC these days, and we want to make sure that it's well represented, different sides of the desk, et cetera. So that candidate wants to represent what they bring to the table to add to the entire pie, whatever their piece may be. That's what you want to represent in your application.
Then we have the institutional support form. So do you want to talk a little bit about when that's due?
Yes. So the institutional support form actually is due on March the 18th. And we're just looking to make sure it's a pretty big time commitment. And I think Joe can speak to the time that it's going to take in order to be a part of the board, but making sure that your institution is okay with that and understands what that looks like.
Yeah, Carolyn, I think it's very important for candidates to have clear and transparent conversations with supervisors around the kind of commitment NACAC will demand in serving with board service. As an example, we have annual face-to-face meetings 3 times a year, May, December, and at annual conference. And most times people think about board service during those time frames, but we also have meetings and depending upon which committee you get assigned to could determine how often you would have Zoom meetings and so on that will also take you away from your primary job. But the board does a really good job with making certain that they provide the kind of information that makes it easy for us to digest and also absorb this additional work. But I had to have several conversations with the leadership at my institution about time commitment and was able to get their full support. So it's just having that conversation, taking the time to really explain what it means to be a NACAC board of directors member. And
I would say that is all true, and then a little more if you are thinking of running for the board chair position. Because not only do you have all of the meetings that Joe has described, but often you will actually sit in both of the committees, in addition to the executive committee. There are chair meetings with the CEO as well every month. So it's not an overwhelming amount of work, but it does require some degree of flexibility. And obviously we all work together to make sure that we're picking times that are conducive for everybody. but it does mean that your institution and your colleagues just need to occasionally be prepared that there are going to be times where you're not perhaps as readily available as you would be normally. Okay, so the application itself. What is the nominating committee looking for when we get these pieces of information? What are we looking to learn about their experiences and how that's going to affect serving on the board, or even why they're interested in the position?
So I think this one goes to me. I think rather than rehashing what we've talked about in the various kind of expectations and skills that we're looking for, I think the thing that's really important for me, and Carolyn, please jump in to either confirm or deny, but in reading applications, it's seeing the demonstration of those expectations, right? The demonstration of leadership, the demonstration of advocacy, the demonstration of financial stewardship. And again, as I mentioned before, we're not looking for every candidate to have every one of these experiences or skills under their belt, but for the areas that you do, let us know, right? As Ffiona said, don't be shy as we talk to our kids, right? You have to, take off the humble hat and brag about the things that you've done and really let us know the application of these skills and experiences. That demonstration is really helpful for us as we're sifting through really qualified candidates and seeing ways that it may have been done differently than we would have done it or differently than we've seen it before. That could be really beneficial to the board as we're making those considerations.
I think it's also important for the nominating committee to think about the wide range of NACAC community that we serve, and making certain that we have context on the board that represents all types of institutions, because we have a range of institutions. We serve a range of students. So in the K-12 sector, we'd be looking for a range of experiences with candidates to ensure that we are covering all of our blind spots and covering all of the populations that NACAC serves. And so I think it's very important to look at a variety of candidates. So I'm hoping a variety of candidates apply so that we have the best opportunity to select the best representation for our organization.
Okay, so as a committee, we've also had a variety of conversations about the reference form and where that fits into our process. And even as within our profession, we have conversations about recommendations. So how do these fit into the nominating committee review?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing that we tell our kids. We want to actually pick someone who knows us well. And it's really, really helpful for us when we're reading through the applications to be able to find that, the reference that really complements those skills and things that can very directly relate to the NACAC service. And exactly like Kristin said, everybody doesn't have to have every skill, but if you have some specific skill in an area that's important, like if you've, dealt with budgets in a large way and someone that knows you can talk about that and the experience that you've had and give us more depth around that, that's extremely helpful, because just like in the admissions world that we all live in, we're trying to fill in different spots and holes, and it's really, really helpful for that reference to be able to shine a light on very specifically how that person could be advantageous within the NACAC community and on that board. So if that person is familiar with NACAC and the organization in general, that's really, really helpful. But it's also not required. That person can speak to just your skill, the things that you bring to the table, and it might be helpful for you to let them know, give them more information about what NACAC is and what it would look like so that they can be a little bit more specific. But it's not disqualifying for them to not be, part of the organization or not really specifically know all the ins and outs.
So the process works in such a way that we get all the applications, the committee comes together, we narrow down, and we decide who we're then going to interview. So if you are invited to the interview round, what's the purpose of the interviews and who are they with?
Sure. So I'll say, just from a couple of years of experience with this is a really interesting part of the process, I think, and a really enlightening part of the process for the committee. I want those who are thinking about putting themselves forward, first of all, you're not interviewing with the entire committee, so it's not a giant panel. It's typically the chair and 2 or 3 other members of the committee that you're speaking with, and we hope it is very much a conversation, although we do have questions that are important to ask all of the candidates. And it's an opportunity to expand upon things that are in the application. We are giving some kind of length limits on what you can write, so it's a chance to go beyond that text box and to share with us more about the experiences that you've had, to speak directly to some of the skills that you see as being real strengths of yours. And it's also a chance for candidates to ask questions of the committee about either how the process proceeds from there, about any questions they have about expectations, or about the work that they'd be doing on the board. So it really is a chance. It's an exchange of information. It's not just, the entire panel firing questions at you for a half an hour.
Try not to make it too intimidating.
No.
And what usually differentiates somebody who might be interviewed and somebody who might not? And I'll ask all of you to chime in with this one. Carolyn, do you want to start?
I mean, I think really it's just sort of that application itself and those references and everything that we're reading. When we're lucky, we have, a large amount of applicants to go through, and we're sorting through and trying to get to know each and one of those applicants as much as we can, and pulling together the people where we say, you know what, we'd like to know more. We think that this could fill this spot, but let's talk to this person and let's get to know a little bit more about them.
Kristin or Joe, anything else you'd like to add?
I think the interview process allows for us, some of us, and I put myself in this box. We were our experiences have really been flat in terms of types of institutions, so it's a little harder for your resume, letters of recommendations, and so on to really talk about the roundness of your experience. Like in my case, I have a ton of experience with historically Black colleges and universities, and my work with College Board allowed me to have a 360 view of many types of institutions, and that came out in my interview when we kind of talked more about my thought processes around our profession, the students that we serve. It came through other experiences, not all associated directly with the institutions that I work for. So the interview allowed me to expand on those things and allowed the committee to ask additional questions.
And my final question then for all of you is, are there anything else, any other words of advice, tips, anything else you would recommend that people are thinking about if they are considering running for either the board director or chair-elect?
I think it's massively important that candidates that are deciding about submitting an application for board service is to think about the types of things you'd like to bring to a global community when you're thinking about board service. I would like for you to really think through all the kinds of things that you may bring to the table, but use a global view. And that could help you center your why you want to be in board service.
I would say that if you have considered that global perspective and that global view and made the decision to put yourself forward, to be yourself in your materials, we're looking for folks who are genuine and excited and invested in this work, and if that's you, let that come through in your materials.
Yeah. And I would just, sort of double down on that. Let us show us your passion. What are you passionate about? What is it that you really want to, bring forward? But also let us know that you're able to put that aside and work within a group, and that you're able to take other perspectives and positions and opinions into consideration, but also as a group, help move toward a specific goal, things, whatever you think that might be, what's important.
Well, thank you all very much for sharing your collective wisdom, both of somebody going through the process, somebody who's on the board, and somebody who has reviewed quite a few applications over the last couple of years. And thank you all for your service for NACAC. So just to wrap things up quickly, please make sure you are following the dates of when things are due. Just like the college admissions process, we have a pretty tight timeline that we are following between when the applications are submitted, when we review them, when we do the interviews, and then please tune in for upcoming board webinars, sort of the insights of current board members, things that surprised them, things they've learned, and then also looking for the future of NACAC with the CEO, Dr. Angel Perez, because obviously serving on the board, it's good to know the direction that we are headed in and the type of work that we will be looking for. So thank you very much for tuning in and listening to this session, and please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any other questions. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.